All right, so for almost 70 years, India's entire economic game plan was mapped out in these 5-year chunks. But then, boom, in 2015, the whole system got thrown out for something completely new. So let's get into it. This is a huge change in how India plans its future.
And this question right here is really what this is all about. We're talking about a massive shift in how India's economy is steered. Moving away from this system where one central group called all the shots to a new one that's supposed to be built on teamwork and partnership.
And believe me, it was a long era. The very first 5-year plan kicked off way back in 1951, right after independence. And yeah, there were a few bumps in the road, but this system basically guided India's economy all the way up until 2017. Think about that. That's 66 years of one single way of doing national planning.
Okay, so to really get why things changed, we've got to first look at how it used to work. The old way, a powerful top-down blueprint for the whole country.
And this was the big player, the Planning Commission. It was set up in 1950, and it was actually heavily inspired by the Soviet Union's model. And this thing had immense power. It wasn't just writing up plans on paper, it was deciding who got the money. It literally allocated resources to all the different states and industries.
And this really shows you how it worked. It was a straight line down. The central government, through the Planning Commission, would cook up one big national plan. Then it would hand out the cash, and the states, well, their job was pretty much just to implement what they were told. Super clear, very hierarchical.
But things started to change. As India grew and evolved, this really rigid top-down system began to show some serious cracks. The country was moving forward, but the planning system, well, it just wasn't keeping up.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. A country as massive and as diverse as India just can't be run with a single cookie-cutter blueprint. I mean, a plan that works for the farms in Punjab could be totally wrong for the factories in Gujarat, right? This one-size-fits-all idea, it just stopped making sense.
And the complaints really started to stack up. First off, people said the plans were just too rigid, too inflexible. Second, it really undermined the whole idea of federalism, the principle that power should be shared. Instead of being partners, the states felt more like they were just taking orders from the top. And this created something called bargaining federalism, where state leaders had to constantly go to the central government, almost like begging for their share of funds. And finally, after India opened up its economy in 1991, this command and control style of planning just felt, well, like a relic from a different era.
So that brings us to the next chapter. The old blueprint gets torn up, and a brand new institution is created to draw a totally different map for the future. So on New Year's Day, 2015, it was official. The Planning Commission was gone, replaced by Niti Aayog. In the name itself, the National Institution for Transforming India, that was a huge signal that this was about a completely different way of thinking. Now this slide right here, this boils the whole change down perfectly. The Planning Commission, it was a planner, but it also held the purse strings. It allocated the money. Niti Aayog, on the other hand, is a think tank. It's a strategic advisor, not a bank. And that, right there, is the single biggest difference.
And this table just lays it all out, side by side. The entire approach flipped from top down to bottom up. The actual power to hand out money, gone. And, maybe most importantly, the states went from being told what to do to being equal partners at the table when policy is made.
You see, this change wasn't just about shuffling papers or changing names on an office store. It was a philosophical shift. It was about totally reshaping the relationship between the central government and the states, moving away from a system of command to one of real cooperation.
And the big idea driving all of this is something called cooperative federalism. It sounds a bit academic, but all it really means is that the national and state governments should stop acting like a boss and an employee and start acting like partners, working together on the same team for the country's development.
And you can see this whole philosophy is baked right into how Niti Aayog is built. Now, the most important part here is the governing council. Get this, it includes the chief ministers of every single state. That ensures that the states have a real voice, a seat at the table when it comes to setting national priorities.
But it's not just about everyone holding hands and cooperating. Niti Aayog also brought in this other really fascinating idea, competitive federalism. The thinking here is to use data and public rankings to spark a little friendly competition between the states, pushing them all to do better and to learn from whoever's at the top of the list.
And here's how that works in the real world. Niti Aayog publishes these indices on everything, from sustainable development goals to health and education.
By ranking the states, it creates this powerful motivation for them to step up their game, improve how they're run, and deliver better services to their people.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the future? What does this new way of planning look like for a new India? Where is Niti Aayog trying to steer the ship?
Well, the vision is, to put it mildly, incredibly ambitious. The big target year is 2047. That'll be the 100th anniversary of India's independence. And the goal is something called Viksit Bharat, which means a fully developed India by that date.
And to get there, that old, rigid 5-year plan is gone. It's been replaced with a much more flexible, layered approach. So you have a long-term 15-year vision, which is then broken down into a 7-year strategy, and that gets translated into a very concrete 3-year action agenda. And this new focus allows them to be way more agile. So Niti Aayog is tackling these really modern, complex challenges head-on. We're talking everything from driving a green transition to helping small businesses grow, to sparking innovation across the country and improving public health.
And that leaves us with one final really crucial question. The old Planning Commission, it had the power of the purse. It could use money to enforce its vision. Niti Aayog, on the other hand, it has to rely on the power of ideas, on collaboration, and on competition. So the big question is that kind of influence powerful enough to truly steer the destiny of a $1 trillion economy? Well, that's the grand experiment that's happening right now.